Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another narrator episode here on Tales from the Wandering Scribe. I'm your host, Gabriel Garcia. Many of you know me as the Wandering Scribe and the Wandering Quill. And joining us today is another one of my good friends from the world of narration. Now, this individual is incredible. He is an incredible narrator, but he's also an incredible stage actor and film actor. You may have seen him in numerous projects in England, if you've seen any of his plays, as well as any movies he's been in, some of which being the Harry Potter series. And more recently, he is also the official voice, Amyntas, for Amyntas, son of Persia, as well as the first book in the Gathering universe, The Gathering, which is here. Amyntas is right here. So without further ado, let's give a huge round of applause to my good friend, Mr. Luke Bromley. Luke, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, a good friend that we've never met, but a good virtual friend, should we say? Never met in the flesh.
Absolutely. Well, Luke, I'm so excited to have you here, and honestly, I've been looking forward to this like all week. It's just so cool. So for viewers and listeners who are just seeing Luke for the first time, I had the privilege of interviewing Luke on another podcast show called Into the Maze, which is Audio Maze, which update for our fans of the Audio Maze website, as well as Audio Maze itself. The interview should be up hopefully sometime by the end of this week. So you'll get a chance to see Luke's full interview on that, where he talks about some incredible works he's done for Audio Maze, as well as stories he's done with another guest on the show, Kaylee Robinson, which, Kaylee, if you're watching this, you're absolutely right when you said before, Luke is incredibly talented and cannot say enough good things. But Luke, I'm actually curious, is there some facets of your personality that your fans may not know about you?
Probably a lot, to be honest. I kind of keep it quite separate, I guess. Yeah, probably most of the stuff people don't necessarily know about me.
Okay, all right. Is there one that you would like to share? Maybe some role that people didn't know that you did, or maybe like a hobby or skill that
I do a lot of fringe theatre, so not many people by nature go and see them. So I mean, I do a lot of that in and around London. So if anyone is in London or in England and wants to come see a show, keep up to date with. I usually post some stuff about any shows I've got going on. But I mean, yeah, the nature of fringe is like, you know, the venues I perform at, it's 50 to 100 people, so it's a small bucket of people, but it's always great fun.
Awesome. All right. And kind of jumping off from that, so from your bio, you've been in theater and film for a long time. You've honed your craft and developing the actor that you want to be. And I'm very curious, for our fans who are again meeting you for the very first time, what was sort of your aha moment, that transition period from stage and film into the world of voiceover work and narration?
Well, I've always thought about it as a thing that I'd love to pursue, voiceover in general, because as you say, I've done like stage work for a long time, but I always thought it was quite inaccessible. I thought it was almost like two different worlds that you stick to your lane. But once COVID happened, all of these sort of doors suddenly appeared, and it sort of was like, oh, okay, it's quite a simple process to put some auditions out, put some feelers out.
Right.
And it just sort of went on from there, really. And then it sort of creeped up on me. It was like it was something I was doing on the side, and then all of a sudden it's something I'm doing now. I'd say this is sort of my main job, really. I do this I do this on a daily basis, which is, it's not something I necessarily thought I would be doing, but I mean, I'm so glad that I am, because it's just so great to do this every day.
Awesome. All right. Now, when you transition into the world of narration and voiceover work, what was probably the most surprising or rather challenging aspect of the industry that you didn't know initially at the time?
I think the technical side of it, because you're always on your own, really, definitely when you first start up.
Mm,
It's not until later that you really have the privilege of getting to work with directors directly. So I guess the idea of self-directing is, I think, it is very challenging. I still find it challenging, but in particular, I think when you first start, you're kind of, you've got to set up a booth, and that's stage one. You've got to have a home studio these days,
hmm
and I think that is the actual technical side of that is a whole other world in and of itself. But I think beyond that, once that's done, yeah, you've got to work out how to self-direct, which is a whole other skill. And you've got to know when to say that's enough or that's good enough, or what direction you want to go in terms of what projects to do. And yeah, I think it's multifaceted, and I guess I didn't necessarily think there would be so much responsibility on my shoulders in terms of lots of things, such as, like, trajectory and where to go next. And yeah, and then also on the day-to-day of, or the moment-to-moment self-direction,
mm.
especially
All right.
audiobooks.
Awesome. All right. And this actually leads into, pardon me, a fan question from one of my viewers who asks, so Luke, you have worked in film and stage for a long time, and I imagine that you have a routine or possibly ritual that gets you into the headspace of a character that you are portraying as. I am wondering if that's something similar that you take with you into your recording booth. Do you do any throat exercises or anything to get you into the zone, so to speak, when you are either narrating the book as the narrator or narrating scenes as a character in a book?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's all the same stuff for me. Yeah, there's a lot of carryover from stage work. Um, and also, as you say, it's definitely, I treat the narrator as a character as well.
All right.
So I don't necessarily see a a difference there. The work is still the same. So the prep work, if it is, even if it's non-fiction, I still think of it as a character. Um, so yeah, the prep work and definitely vocal exercises, stuff like that, you need to do for anything, really. Um, Character work, yeah, I mean, it might take me, sometimes characters come to me like that, and then other times, like, it'll take me a long time to find the voice of a certain character. Um, so yeah, it's definitely something that I'm glad. I mean, it's a great question, because it's kind of, that's kind of what the job is, in a way, is preparing for character and then doing character.
Mm.
Um, and that, yeah, that never really ends, really. You're always trying to do prep where you can, and work out ways into characters.
Absolutely, which I think is, very, very true. And this actually follows another fan question, which actually pertains to characters in of themselves. And this viewer asked, actually, this perfectly ties in with Kaylee's book, A Ties of Deception. And they asked, when working with author Kaylee Robinson, how did you develop the voices for the characters in those books?
Well, Kaylee was great because she just gave me a load of notes and basically just said, this is how I see the character. And I think there's no one more capable of giving the narrator's notes than the author. I think they're the ones ultimately that know the character more than anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Kaylee in particular was great. I love working with people like that, authors like that are willing to sort of share who they see these characters are as. So yeah, I mean, it could just even be a word. It could just be an adjective that they give you, and you're like, right, okay, I get it from that. Or it, as I say, it could take a little bit more than that. So I tend to ask for, if it's available, I tend to ask the perspective of the author of who these characters are and what they think of them, and how they see the world. Yeah, another great question. I think it is really important because I think a big fear of mine is the author saying to me, "You've got that character wrong."
Right. Absolutely. And that actually kind of leads to the next set question. So let's actually kind of go back in time a little bit to when you began your work in narration. So when you began working with the first author you were working with at the time, what were sort of your goals as the narrator working with your very first author, not only to yourself, but to that person as well? And also, what was sort of the promise you were making, again, not just to yourself and to the author, but also the future readers of that book?
So my first ever project was a book called The Titanic Tunnel, by
Ooh.
Glenn Blackwell, and it was a children's historical fiction based on the Titanic. And that's kind of what I thought I'd go into. I thought I'd go into more children's novels. And I think the main purpose was to just bring these characters alive and tell the story in an interesting way that would appeal to the age range that it
Mm.
was targeted at. And I think that's always the job. It's always the job of the narrator, the director, the author, just to tell the story. I think we can overcomplicate things, maybe, and sometimes it's important to trail back and think of it simply as what best serves the story.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I think because I think you can get caught up with the idea of it being a children's novel,
Right.
um, which kids are smart.
Yes.
You can't really dumb it down.
Mm.
You've just got to tell the story like you would anyone, really. Um, and I think that's probably where. I mean, I haven't gone back to listen to it, but I don't know. I don't know what the quality of the recording was back then. But yeah, I mean, back then it was the most important person for me was the author, and they were happy with it. So but yeah, I think that is an important rule to remember is how best to tell the story. And I think the best idea is key.
Yes, very, very true, Luke. Again, very, very true. And this actually is another question which I love asking guests on the show, specifically narrators, because I love kind of breaking like I don't want to say stereotypes, but the myths surrounding the world of narration and voiceover work. Because I'll be the first to admit this, I knew very little of the amount of work that went into, voiceover talent. But after interviewing you, Mariana, Daphne, Damien, and many others in and out of Audio Maze, I realized that there is sort of like a lot of, internal pressure to, like, again, make sure everything is right for the characters and everything like that. And what I mean by that, viewers and listeners, is that just like actors who work either on stage or in film, they don't get like an actual, well, I shouldn't say this loosely. You do have concept art for films. They can show you, okay, this is what the character is going to look like. But even before then, and I could be wrong, so film students, please be nice to me in the comments section. But at the time, you don't get the chance to see what the physical product looks like. You just get the descriptions of said characters, and you have to create, okay, how is this character going to act? How are they going to sound like? What are they like? And the same thing for the world of narration. For us authors, when we write the characters, we try to write them as best we can to describe them. But ultimately, when a narrator is saying lines as a character, they have to imagine, okay, are they looking like this? Is their voice going to be deep like this? So there goes a lot of hard work. And that kind of breaks the myths about that it's just making a funny voice in a recording booth. It's absolutely not. So for you, Luke, what are some other myths that you've encountered or discovered that people may have about narrators or voiceover artists in the industry?
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I think the development of character is so multifaceted. In terms of other myths, I mean, yeah, I guess that definitely how much time it takes to actually produce audiobooks. I think it's something that I definitely didn't know going into it. I mean, you've obviously got the preparation work, which takes a long time.
Yes.
But also the actual recording itself does it does take it is hefty in terms of the workload. So I guess, yeah, the definitely the amount of time to produce it, because I hear a lot of I hear a lot of people coming into this as a side job. As I think there was some myth online where people were getting rich off narrating audiobooks, and I think someone said, "Oh yeah, it's a really quick and easy way of making some extra money," and it is the complete opposite. I mean,
Yes.
do you know what I hear that now about authors as well. I hear that, oh, you can get really rich off of just writing some books and then publishing them on Audible, and it's like, that's not the case. If you want to get into this for money, you're in the wrong path.
Yes.
It is not, that is not why you should be getting into this world. And I think that is for authors. I think authors and narrators alike. It is a lot of work for not a lot of reward. I mean, and a lot of risk as well. There's a lot of risk comes with it as well. So I mean, we're not digging up coal or anything, but it is a hard job. And it's definitely not just a get rich quick. There's nothing quick about this. Nothing at all.
No, absolutely. And one thing we're going to be talking about later is, of course, the rise of AI entering, the narration industry and how that's changing up the game. But before we get to that, there was a more personal question I did want to ask you, Luke. And I think I may have asked you this last time, which is, just like authors, whenever we work on a project, it is a very lonely endeavor in the beginning, where we are just working in silence. We're doing the best we can. And at a certain stage in our life, at that point, we have to decide, do we want to tell people we're working on this, or do we tell them after the product is finished? I've had a lot of authors on the show say the same thing, and some narrators share their thoughts on this. For you, Luke, when did you tell your family that you were going into another type of business? Did you tell them initially in the beginning or after you had worked on your first project?
No, I definitely told them in the beginning. I mean, my family has been, yeah, they've been big parts of setting it up and helping me through, especially the early days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all of my family have had their input into my career. I think that maybe just my family maybe specific in that we do help each other with all of the stuff that we've got going on. We
Right.
all, if we can contribute, we do. And so it's not, it's not a favor based thing, but it's yeah, it extends out to a broad range of people, family, friends, and stuff.
Mm,
Even if it's something like take a listen to this. What do you think?
right.
Um, I think that's really important. I mean, it's important to me. I know I wouldn't be able to do this if I didn't have family and friends support. I
Absolutely.
wouldn't be able to do it. I mean, I'm assuming that everyone relies on other people to
Mm-hmm.
help out. I don't know anyone that does just something like this as a lone wolf.
That is very true. That is very true. And that actually plays, another role in another reflective question, which is, of course, being independent creators in the digital age, because as I said on, numerous episodes, the industry has changed within the last 20 years for authors, editors, and narrators. Social media is, a huge tool to help grow our brand and our awareness. But we also, unfortunately, leave ourselves exposed to the negative side of social media. That is why it is a double-edged sword. And especially for narrators, I've had Daphne, Heather, Lauren, Damien, they've all talked about, they've never encountered this, but they know that it does exist where narrators sometimes post live snippets of, a scene from a project they're working on, or, just a random voice from a scene they just created, just, get the day started before they begin recording. And, people comment on social media, sometimes good, sometimes bad. And all that could contribute to some stress, anxiety, imposter syndrome, and what have you. And I'm very curious, Luke, throughout your journey, and you can also bring in some examples from your work in film and stage. How do you handle sort of negative reviews and critiques? And despite maybe some instances, what has disciplined you to continue down this path? Because you know that you are very passionate about this industry.
Yeah, I maybe I've been lucky. I think I've been lucky in that I haven't necessarily encountered too much negativity. But I also think in terms of social media, you don't have to do it.
That's true.
It's not a requirement. Um, and there is an argument that that's where a lot of people source work, especially, I mean, acting work in particular these days. I get most of my acting work from Instagram and those platforms. So I
Mm,
think there might be an argument for that. But I think you can, if you like, with voiceover, I think there are a lot of avenues you can go down, and you don't necessarily need it. If it's, I think if it's impacting you too negatively, I don't think you should put added pressure on yourself to be on them.
mm-hmm.
And I think that's, I think a lot of people would maybe I'm too old, but I think people of my generation would probably see that as an obvious thing. But maybe some younger people that have grown up in that world
Mm.
would maybe see that as maybe an impossibility, and
Right.
you're sort of locking yourself out. Um, but you can still do the work. I mean, if you're an audiobook narrator, you can still do the work without posting on Instagram or anything. You know, that
Hmm.
the work will always be there. Um, in terms of advice for dealing with negativity, I think everyone's got an opinion, and I think that if everyone likes your stuff, you're probably doing something wrong,
Right.
because
That is very true.
you're not making interesting choices. You're
Mm.
making the popular choice, maybe.
Right.
Um, so I think going out to please everyone, um, I don't think it's going to be rewarding. So
Hmm.
I think I mean, maybe us narrators um, maybe a bit more sensitive than other people on a platform, um, because of the fact that you have to be quite emotionally sensitive, um,
Mm.
but for the job. But I think if you can get over that and be able to put your work out there, and sometimes put your heart on your sleeve, and lay lay some quite intimate stuff about yourself into the world. If you can get past the idea of um, people having negative thoughts about that, I think it's important to. Um, and,
Absolutely.
and maybe that's what could drive you forward in terms of breaking through that negativity.
Awesome.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's actually very, very true. And, that actually leads to another fan question, which honestly is probably the most interesting fan question that I've ever gotten on the show. And I love to hear your thoughts on this. And this viewer said, we know that uh, actors in media often get typecasted in roles, such as, some actors are good at only playing Westerns, or some actors are only known as the action stars. I am curious, do you find that also appearing in the world of narration, that certain narrators are only typecast to narrate certain genres of books, let's say romance, fantasy, sci-fi, historical fiction, or even thrillers, or any genre?
yeah, I think that's true. I think that's true. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think um, I think all work is valuable, and I think it's what you bring to it. I didn't think we should get too bogged down with genre and um, yeah, being typecast. It makes sense. It makes sense why we would be. But I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's that much of an issue. Um, I could be arguably typecast in the romance department, and I I like it because there is so much variety in that world. I
Mhm.
mean, I c- even though it's a genre that I would say I was um, maybe typecast within, there are so many subgenres in that um, that you can always find. You can always and every work is different as well. Every author has different stuff, so there's always new stuff coming through. It's not like it's boring. It's there's always new stuff, and I think that would be the only concern for me, is if it was the same stuff going through.
Mm.
But being typecast in a genre, I don't think it's an issue. Um, but as I said to you before we started recording, the one I used to do more historical fiction, and it's definitely something I'm like, I wish I could do a bit more of that. because as I said, it's something, historical fiction and non-fiction in general is something that I read for pleasure instead
Right.
of business. And I do bits and pieces of non-fiction here and there, but it's mostly non-fiction stuff. But yeah, it's something that I'd like to get back into. But I think that's more of my timing issue. That's,
Right.
I think that's because there's always stuff you can be doing if I had, an extra day in the week.
Absolutely, 100%. And kind of going back to this topic of, social media and like, the industry is changing. This raises another question, which I very much would like to hear your thoughts on, Luke. And that is, of course, whether or not we are in sort of like a golden age or rather an iron age. So, context for this question. So, as I told you in our last interview on Into the Maze, I've been, interviewing people for about 6-7 years, and in the large pool of people that I've interviewed on this show, a majority of them began or returned to their craft around the year 2020, 2021, or 2022, but within the COVID lockdown years. And after interviewing, all these people, I came to the conclusion that the lockdown years sort of became a breeding ground for new talent, new independent voices. And then after which the floodgates opened and the industry was flooded with new voices, which I absolutely love. I love that there are new voices in the industry, new authors showcasing their work, editors honing their craft, and narrators showing people around the world, what they're capable of. And it's absolutely insane. But there has been this debate of whether or not are we in a golden age because of the new voices, or are we in sort of like an iron age where it's not as shiny, but we have a foundation. But then going a step further, we touch on the topic of AI entering the industry, where it's, going back to what you said earlier, Luke, about the myth that you can write numerous books and be successful. I've had a lot of people on the show say that, because of AI, there is that loophole that you could type in the program, hey, I want you to write me a book. You can pump out 120,000 page books within a span of a week. All you would have to do is just edit it, and you could be, in theory, making money. So there has been this debate that I've been seeing. So for you, Luke, in your opinion, do you believe that we are in a golden age or iron age? And also, do you believe that we are entering also a dark age, kind of, with AI entering the publishing industry and changing the workforce?
I'm team golden age, I think. I don't know. I mean, I was more of an audiobook consumer um, before 3 years ago when I started to narrate.
Mm,
So I don't. I mean, I wasn't in this world. I haven't been in this world for very long.
right.
So I guess I still think of myself as a kind of a newbie. So it's hard to know. And I think maybe someone that's been in this world for longer would probably have a more nuanced perspective than me. But I mean, yeah, I think there's some great talent out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the issue, yeah, I mean, the issues with AI, I think is probably going to be short-lived fear. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think it's obviously going to be a massive part of our lives, but I don't think it's something necessarily to worry about too much. I think it's in terms of voiceover, um the it will probably just take up, I mean, it's hard to predict, but I think it will just probably take up parts of the voiceover world that aren't that interesting anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I said this to you before. I mean, I wouldn't want to listen to an audiobook that's an AI,
Right. And that's
because
true.
yeah, it's part of why I want to listen to an audiobook is the performance.
Yes.
And even if the performance from the AI is incredible and one of the best performances ever, I think the thing that makes a good performance good has got to be the human aspect to it and the imperfections to it. And when you have it in the back of your head that even if the AI has those imperfections, the fact that it's manufactured by something that's not human, it yeah, it doesn't appeal to me. And I think that it's probably true for most people,
Yes.
or at least people that I know, people that would care about that thing.
Yes.
And
Very,
so
very true.
there's always going to be an audience for human performances.
Yes. And probably my favorite argument against like the use of AI as terms of a creative tool in the sense of, using it to write your books or in the sense of writing is asking an alcoholic seventh grader to write the book for you. It's not going to be correct. You're going to have to redo it anyway. And ultimately, you're going to realize that you should have just written the book on your own, which, is entirely true. Now, I do want to say that I think, to your point, yeah, there are some uses of AI that are beneficial in terms of like, formatting or maybe organizing, books and like, files. I think that is very, very helpful. Or another thing is too, what I have admitted on numerous episodes, I have used a site called Night Cafe to help make concept art for characters, and I've always say that whenever I post it, like these are concept characters, these are not the official artworks. These were made with AI, just to give people an idea of what the character could potentially look like. So there are, again, almost what you're saying, Luke, that there are some positive uses of AI, but to use it as a creative tool in the sense of, writing your book or narrating your stories, that is where there has to be a line drawn in the sand because you want to see the human creativity. You want to see what people are capable of because what I think ultimately AI has done, I don't think a lot of people talk about this, AI has mass produced a false sense of creativity. And a lot of people are picking up on that. And that is why a lot of people are showcasing their work and really pushing for human first products, where it's like, audiobooks or books in general. And that kind of leads now into the business side of being a narrator, which I'm very eager to hear your thoughts on, Luke. So, as a little icebreaker for this segment of the interview, looking at your journey thus far, is there anything that you would have done differently when you first started out in narration?
Yes. Yeah, loads of things. It's probably good that we don't have that power to go back and change things, because
Right.
I think it's you do learn from your mistakes, and I think that is more important than than anything really, is stumbling sometimes and working things out. You know what, that I think the probably the biggest regrets I've got is it all comes down to not preparing enough.
Mm-hmm.
That always comes up for me, because I think um all of my training in terms of acting has always been the most important thing is the prep work. And so I don't think of it as something that I have an excuse for. And so when I have missed out on that opportunity for any reason, it really it really screws with me because I'm like, I really wish I could just go back and just spend a bit more time on that, um, and working through things. I mean, you never have enough time because it's a bit like
Right.
I think of it as a bit like doing a marketing job. I've never done a
Mm,
marketing job, but I'd hate it because it's just you feel like, or I can imagine you feel like you're always at work because there's always something you can be doing. And I think that's also true with acting, but maybe it's because I enjoy it that I don't too much of a it's not too much of a problem for me, because I do think you are always like switched on, and
hmm
you are always like trying to find different things to draw on into character or whatever worlds that you might have in your head for um for for audiobooks and stuff. But yeah, I can't think of anything specific, but I think it would probably come down to not preparing enough. Because I think I can tell. I mean, I can always tell when someone's not prepared, and
Yes, absolutely.
it annoys me as an audience member if I'm at a show and
hmm
I'm like, you haven't worked out the character yet. You don't know it yet. It's not in there yet. Um,
hmm
and so it really annoys me if I feel like I haven't done that.
Yes, very, very true. And this is a question that I don't ask a lot of narrators a lot, but I think it is important to ask this, especially from a business point of view. And I think it also correlates, possibly in the world of film and stage, which is the power of saying no. And this, I'm going to use two different examples for this, and feel free to add your own examples. So when I asked this first question to Daphne when she made her debut on the show, and she asked, what did I mean by, power of no? And giving more context to that, I stated from an author's point of view is that for authors, we always want to find narrators that, would really help bring our books to life. So we try to find anyone that we can find. And I imagine that's almost the same thing for narrators, that narrators are always trying to find maybe some books to possibly work on, or maybe some authors to work with. But there also have to be a professional boundary where you don't necessarily have to take on every project that is presented to you when you realize that you yourself are not the right narrator. So that is one example of saying no. But also, if the book's contents are A, triggering, or B, talk about stuff that for you morally as a person you do not agree with or feel comfortable with saying, that is another example of saying no. So Luke, I would like to hear your thoughts on sort of like the power of saying no and why it is important for narrators to realize that they do have that power to say no in, those two instances and possibly even more.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is important. Um, yeah, what was interesting about that is what you said, where um, if you don't think you're right for the part, um, and I think that's true. I mean, probably with the author as well. I mean,
hmm
if you're writing something, you're like, this I'm not the right person to write this story. Yeah, it is important. Because I think as an actor, you kind of you're kind of led by the agent, and if they think that you're right for the part, you're right for the part. I think it's not necessarily something that's been hardwired within me to say no.
Right.
Um, and especially if someone else is asking me to do it, I think, well, that's a challenge. I need to do it.
Yes.
But yeah, there's been one or two occasions where I've said no. Um, and I don't regret the no's. And I've had advice from people saying don't take that
Right.
audiobook. and yeah, I'm glad that I didn't. But I mean, it's a hard one because you do feel like you're letting people down and you're letting
Right.
yourself down. So I think it is difficult. And I think there's a real balance there because, yeah, there's always that question of what if. But I think don't you?
Yes.
You get a gut feeling, and I think that leads if you listen to that, that leads to some element of truth there.
Yes.
That is more important than doing the gig or whatever it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And also kind of talk about the business is, the training and the voices, as well as, if there are certain characters that do have accents. I've talked again, that's also another thing to talk about is, there are certain characters that do pose some, I don't think much of a challenge in a bad sense, but definitely an obstacle in the beginning if there's not a lot of prep time, and also making them feel authentic to the story. And this actually comes from another viewer who says, Mr. Bromley, another Tides of Deception related question. So, when working on Tides of Deception, how did you make the characters feel complex, but also most importantly feel authentic in the sense that it makes sense for a character like that to exist in that world?
Well, thank you. I think most of the legwork for things like that has already been done from Kaylee. You know, when you get a good script, it's kind of like it's like gold. It's like paper diamonds. You sort of think, oh,
Right.
okay, this you do kind of think, oh, this most of my work is already done because I can just see that sometimes just characters just click and they just jump right off the page. So maybe Ties of Deception won't be necessarily a good example of that because I think, as I say, a lot of the work was done and the characters did seem to just come to me quite naturally. And I think that is through the fact that Kaylee knew the characters so well
Right.
and really sort of put them on the page so eloquently. But yeah, I guess when there are times when it does take a little bit longer, but it goes back to what I said about prep. It's all
Right.
about I think you kind of draw on so many things and other performances and other people that and you sort of try and find the connection there of it's almost like a little jigsaw puzzle that you're kind of working out when you're developing a character. You kind of well, I do, at least I draw from loads of different
Mhm.
stimuli, and some things stick in your mind and it might be a completely different genre or whatever, but it will be useful for something completely different. What was it? Something recent made me think of this. Do you know what it was? I watched. Have you ever seen the film Precious? It's quite an old film. It's probably like 10 years or so.
Yes, I believe so. Yes.
The performances in that movie are so good, and I rewatched it probably about a month ago,
Mm.
and it's been a month, and my mind is still going through, particularly Monique's performance in that film. And I think I used that. I used something that she did there in one of those scenes for a character for an audiobook, and I was like, oh, that bit of I can't even remember what it was, but maybe it was something she did with her voice or something. And I was like, I'm just gonna borrow that kind of that it might have been like a shakiness to the voice or something. And I think I think you do draw from so much stimuli, which is why I think a big part of the prep is is watching a lot of stuff, going to
Mm,
the theater, reading bits and pieces, because it's all like a jumble of life that you can use.
yes.
And I think maybe going back to your question on AI, maybe that's probably one of the best use cases of AI for something creative, is that kind of jumping board. And I think it's similar to what you're saying in terms of if you're an author, you can use AI to organize yourself a bit better. I kind of see it in the same way, in that you can probably find a catalog of stuff for you to to use, as I say, it's like, yeah, like a springboard, like something to jump off of. Because if you've got no stimuli, you've got no character. You need stuff to draw on.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Absolutely, Luke. Absolutely. And this actually kind of leads to another question, which I think is very important to talk about when it comes to the performance of the narrator. And in your opinion, which do you find to be the most challenging? Narrating a book to be immersive, or narrating a book that appeals to the five senses?
That is a very specific question. Narrating a book to be immersive. I mean, it's quite. I guess it's similar, isn't it? I mean, we all kind of. That's how we view the world, is through our five senses, and I guess that's
Right.
getting us into the immersive side of books. So yeah, maybe I'll stick with. They're both as difficult as each other.
That's fair. That is fair. Yeah. And you actually are kind of right, because immersive does kind of lead into the five senses in one way or another. But I definitely could also agree that if you're writing like a scene from a book that you want to really appeal to the senses, let's say you're in a tavern and the author's written like a really good tavern scene, and you really want to talk about, the smells that you would encounter in the tavern. What would you hear? Would you hear the sounds of people drinking, the clanking of silverware, the crackling of the fire? I guess I could see in that regard. But that also kind of ties into, not just the narrator's performance of saying the words, but also another discussion, which is the sound people, the sound designers, who are also part of the book, who help bring up uh, that aspect. And on this topic of scenes, this actually goes to another fan question from one of my viewers. It's probably one of my favorite to ask my guests, which is, Mr. Bromley, what has been your favorite scene to narrate? And also, what has been the most challenging scene to narrate?
Ooh, challenging. Nothing's jumping out at me in terms of the challenging. My favorite scene is I think the first thing that comes to my head is I did a book series for Pepper Winters, the author Pepper Winters, um, called The Jewelry Box, and there was a 4-book series, and they were long books. It was a duet with Lucy Jessica, who's a narrator who I went to drama school with.
Mm,
And so this was a big project, and I think at the end, it was one of the final chapters of the final book, and it was a heavy book. It was a romance, but it was some really dark content. And so what the characters had been through was really brutal. And there was a scene at the end that was it had a lot of emotion in. Maybe it was the most challenging as well, because I'm saying this is my favorite one to narrate, but I think it might be the most challenging as well, because I think the emotions that the character felt were so nuanced. and the narration of that scene. It was a point of view perspective, and how that character saw the world. I don't want to get into too much detail because I don't want to give any spoilers. I mean,
Right.
if you're gonna listen to the book, I mean, it'll be a big spoiler for a 4-book series. But
Mhm.
yeah, the emotions that this character felt, and I think this character in particular, I did feel a real connection to, in a really visceral way, and it's still a character I think of a lot. And I don't know, I can't explain it, why I felt so much of a connection. Obviously, the writing was phenomenal, but I think there were lots of characters in that book, and but this one character just sort of jumps out at the page at me in particular. And I think finishing off that book with that particular character was, yeah, both the most rewarding but challenging at the same time.
All right, Luke. Nice. And we're almost near the end of this incredible narrator interview, but we have one last fan question. And this fan question is a very, very special one because it actually comes from my good friend, Kim Applegram, who many viewers know was actually the first guest I had on my show. She's been a very good friend of mine. She's read almost all of my books. And this is a very, very sweet comment she actually made a while back when you did a snippet for Amyntas not too long ago. And she says this: Luke, I have to say, your performance in that brief scene for Amyntas has probably been my favorite. I've been a fan of my friend Gabe's work for many years. I've loved The Gathering, loved Amyntas, Son of Persia, and listening to your performance as Amyntas is simply incredible. You are clearly a person who is passionate about your talent and your craft. And ultimately, Luke, what do you want people to take away from each performance that you've been a part of?
Well, that's very, very kind. So thank you. I think to take away, I don't know if there's anything in particular for in general. Maybe more in a performance aspect. Whatever you're doing, make sure you're prepared for it. I think that would probably be something I'd like to underline. Yeah, but what a lovely question. I think I really did enjoy recording that piece, and I think as I said before, it's like finding paper gold when you get good scripts and you look at them and sort of the characters just jump out of the page at you. So I think, yeah, it's not something that happens overnight, and it's not something that I think one person can do. I think it takes a community of people to produce something good. So whether that be the actual written work or the support you get from friends and family, I think don't think lightly about the variety of contributions.
Absolutely, Luke. Absolutely. And the final question of this incredible interview, I'm actually going to combine with another question because I think it is very important. So throughout this incredible interview, we touched on a lot of specific things about, performances, being prepared, honing your craft and everything, which are all very incredible, amazing, great topics for further discussion. And I think another thing to talk about, as you mentioned earlier, on and off camera, is that this industry, much like being an author, is not an industry to get rich quick. It is not a easy moneymaker. It is a lot of hard work and, dedication and a grind. Are there exceptions to the rule that a person's first narrated book is going to launch their career. Absolutely, but those are exceptions to the rule. And I definitely feel just like there are workshops for authors to help them hone their craft, I definitely feel while there are workshops for narrators, I don't think there's enough to really help, talk about other things. So let's play this little scenario, Luke. Let's say you were invited to a book festival in England and you are hosting a panel, and the audience has, not only just authors, but also aspiring voice actors, narrators, possibly even students in the theater world, students who want to go into filmmaking. So, out of all the topics you could talk about, what is the one topic you would like to discuss with them, but also leave with them as a pearl of wisdom?
I've probably said it too much, but do the prep.
Yes.
Do the prep work. Also, I guess I think I've talked enough about that. But also staying curious is really important. You need to for work like this, you need to be interested in a lot of things.
Yes.
And yeah, I think I'd lose a lot of motivation for this job if I wasn't as curious about a variety of things as I was. And I think that's similar with, I don't know about you, but maybe similar to authors as well. I think you need to be the kind of person to be curious, and I think that that definitely breeds creativity. So maybe, yeah, the title of my my TED talk would be curiously prepared.
Yes, and I 100% agree, Luke. And just to cap off to that, yeah, I definitely think staying curious is definitely important because it definitely keeps, how would I say it? It keeps you motivated and it keeps you grounded because we're always going to be fascinated, just as authors, we're always going to be curious about the next new thing or what we can improve upon. And maybe also to add to that, I would say stay curious, but also stay grounded in the sense of you want your goals to be realistic. Now, do you want to be a narrator that works on a re-release of a Bryan Sanderson book, or possibly be hired on to narrate one of Dr. Tolkien's newly published works? Absolutely. That is definitely a goal for the future, but it's not a goal that's unattainable. It definitely takes a long time. But if your goals are sound, realistic, and grounded, you will achieve that. And on that note, viewers and listeners, we conclude this amazing narrator interview here on Tales from the Wandering Scribe. A huge thank you to my friend Luke for making his debut here on the show, and we wish him the very best. Now, Luke, where can people find you on social media if they want to reach out? Also, do you have any projects you would like to announce? And are there any special shout outs you'd want to give to certain people in your life?
You can find me. I'm mainly on Instagram. I think that's probably the best place to find me. It's at Luke William Bromley. Or you can find me on my website, which is lukebromley.com. And I think TikTok is Luke Will Bromley. In terms of work that I've got coming out, I've got I think we talked about it in our previous talk. Return to Ragnarok. I've just been told by Carl that it is released. So it's being released currently. So that should be, for those that are on the Audio Maze platform, go check out Return to Ragnarok. I mean, we talked briefly about it last time, but I mean, I'm really excited for what people think about that, because it was such a fun project to do. other than that, keep an eye on my. I usually post, as I say, on Instagram. You keep an eye on that because I usually post my releases on there. I've got a few things coming up that'll be released on Audible in the next month or so. So yeah, I got some fun things coming up.
Awesome. Any special shout you want to give to some people in your circle?
Yes, you. Thank you for your lovely chat over the pond.
Well, thank you, Luke. I really do
been an
appreciate
absolute
that.
pleasure as always.
Thank you, Luke. I really do appreciate that. That really means a lot. And if you want to see Luke's performance in the snippet from Amyntas, Son of Persia, you can find it on my YouTube channel or on my website, The Wandering Scribe. Emphasis on wandering because wandering was taken, which I have provided in my About tab on my channel. And if you want to read Amyntas yourself, you can find it on my website, which will take you to the Barnes & Noble page. And be on the lookout in the near future for the audiobook version of both The Gathering and, of course, Amyntas, Son of Persia. I am very excited for those future projects in the works, so be on the lookout for more details on those coming soon. As always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below to stay up to date with new episode releases and more. And as always, is the Wandering Scribe and the Wandering Quill signing out. Wish you all a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. And we'll see you all in the next episode.